Hello there, my name's Brandon and I make pictures out of tiny squares. And in this video, I've just got a quick time lapse. I made these sprites of my character Captain Jace in my sprite workflow video a couple months ago. And I figured I'd take some of that work and just create a little character sheet, just as kind of a final way to present the character concept. These little character sheets are something that I've been doing for a while, and I find them to be a really nice presentational format. But also they're just a really good exercise for thinking about additional details and just kind of different ideas that can round out the character. And then also they help me keep track of technical things like the color palette that I made or the way that the sprite was put together. Since I've got most of the sprite work done here, this is more of a graphic design pursuit, but I will be pixeling a few more things just to fill out the rest of the space. The canvas that I'm creating this on is 270 by 270 pixels. And I've chosen that because when I'm finished, it'll scale up exactly 4 times to a final image size of 1080 by 1080. The reason I want it to scale up to that size is because I plan to post this on Instagram, and as far as I've been able to tell, their image widths are scaled to 1080 exactly. You don't need to upload images as a perfect 1080 square to Instagram, of course. It'll resize it and fit various aspect ratios as well. But what happens with pixel art is that if your final canvas size is a little bit off that mark, it'll look a little bit blurry just because it's trying to fit your image into that 1080 width. The best way I've found to produce clear pixel art images when posting to Instagram is to make sure that you scale your image by an exact integer and have it fill out a space of 1080. If we want to find out what canvas sizes work best for this kind of scaling, we can start with that final image size of 1080 by 1080 and divide it by different integers, and we'll end up with our options. And once we finish the work, we know that these will scale to that final sizing of 1080 by 1080. So again, for this example, I'm using a canvas of 270 by 270 because I know it will scale back up by 400% to give me that final image size. Now, you might have a couple of questions. The first would be, do I have to do this? And the answer is no, of course. No, you can always scale your image to a size larger than 1080. And then when you post to Instagram, it'll do kind of an okay job at sizing it down for you, although you'll probably notice a little bit of blur. And the second question then is, so if I want to minimize blur, does this mean that I can only choose from like 6 different canvas sizes and that's it? And again, no, you can use whatever you like. Like a lot of the time I use the Game Boy canvas size, which is 160 by 144 pixels. Although what I do in that case is that I put the art onto a canvas of 180 by 180 and just fill the remaining empty space with black or something. Then it'll scale back by exactly 600% to a final image size of 1080 by 1080. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And I've really only singled out Instagram when talking about this because I haven't noticed the same issues when posting on sites like Twitter or Reddit. They always look crisp, so I think those ones retain your original image size and maybe only shrink it when showing the preview. I mean, you should obviously still scale it up by some exact multiple, just so it's not like its original tiny image, but otherwise there should be very few problems there. And regardless of where you post or whatever size it is, make sure to save your image as a PNG file type, which keeps it looking crisp, rather than a JPEG, which tends to introduce slight artifacts due to compression. Anyway, with those technical details out of the way, let's actually talk a little bit about what's going on in the time lapse here. So you probably already noticed that I just filled out my canvas size with a bunch of empty windows and then played around with the layout to find something simple and clean looking. I had the existing sprite work, but then with the remaining space, I added the color palette, and right now I'm just working on a few icons that are meant to kind of represent a few character skills or traits, I guess. And this is where more of the creative exercise comes in, because having to fill out some kind of character sheet forces you to come up with a few more ideas. I kind of always like the idea of having like stats or info on it, kind of like it's like a rookie card that has like a few key points or stats about them or whatever. And then the additional bonus practice here is that we actually have to pixel all these little items to complete that design idea. So I may not have thought about doing little 1-bit icons of a spaceship and a fist and a bowl of ramen before on my own, but now I've got that little bit of extra practice here. And the idea that I had to fill out the remaining panel at the bottom was making a small ramen bowl sprite and kind of dressing it up in a few different ways that they'd maybe be these like different pickups or power-ups if this were in a game. Like maybe one of them restores health, another could be like stamina or energy, or like an attack bonus or something like that. Either way, it's just a fun exercise to mess around with something else and to create something that has some sort of visual appeal that also means something to the character. And then finally, I added title words to each of the windows here. For text, I normally just block out kind of like a full rectangle to keep track of the spacing of the letters. And then I'll erase from those to find sort of a nice letter shape. Kind of helps just to think about letters as being these like shapes that you're trying to replicate, rather than staying attached to the way that we know them to look. Does that make sense? Either way, when you block out a small area and erase from it, it just kind of forces that stylization into the letter. Of course, what helps here too is partly because of how small these are anyway. Most of the title letters here are only 3 by 4 pixels in size. And so here's the final result with just a few finishing touches. And so to scale this up, as we discussed, I'm just going to change my image size to 1080 by 1080 pixels, or a 400% increase. In a program like Photoshop that gives you resize algorithm options, you want to set it to nearest neighbors. This will maintain crisp pixels rather than the program trying to interpolate the final result and lead to blurring. And so now what we see in the resized image is that every pixel that was a single pixel is now a perfect 4 by 4 square of pixels. So this is essentially finished and ready to post. I hope you enjoyed watching. I'm sorry I talked most of the time about the technical sizing stuff, but hey, that's actually like a really important part of this whole thing anyway. There's nothing quite as frustrating as working hard on a nice, crisp pixel art piece, only to have that quality like take a beating when you share it online. So I hope that bit helped. Good luck out there, and thank you for watching, and take care and keep it square.